At my baby shower, surrounded by family and friends celebrating my pregnancy, my own sister stood up and made an announcement that shattered my world. She was pregnant, by my husband. But what she didn't know was that I had been planning something for days. I had evidence that would destroy them both. Pura adjusted her flowing maternity dress one final time. At 7 months pregnant, her belly rounded beautifully beneath the soft fabric. Today was her baby shower and everything had to be perfect. "Nero, have you arranged the flowers?" she called to her younger sister, who was busy hanging blue and pink streamers across their family compound. The decorations swayed gently in the warm breeze, creating a festive atmosphere. Nero smiled brightly, her hands working quickly with the ribbons. "Everything is ready, sister. The caterers will arrive soon, and Mama has prepared her famous jollof rice." She paused, touching her own stomach briefly. "This will be the most beautiful celebration." Pura felt a surge of happiness. Her husband Abube had been working extra shifts at the construction company to prepare for their first child. Her family had pooled resources to make this day special. Nothing could ruin this moment. The compound buzzed with anticipation as neighbors began arriving early to help with final preparations. By afternoon, the compound overflowed with laughter and music. Women in colorful Ankara prints filled every corner, their voices rising in traditional songs. Children ran between the tables, their joy infectious. The air smelled of spiced rice, fried plantains, and fresh palm wine. Pura sat in the decorated chair of honor, surrounded by gifts wrapped in bright papers. Her mother, Adenea, beamed with pride as she served guests. Friends from her teaching job at the local primary school had come bearing baby clothes and toys. "You will be a wonderful mother," said her colleague Obiagili, placing a hand on Pura's belly. "This child is blessed to have you." Ibube stood near the gate, greeting male guests and directing traffic. He looked handsome in his crisp white shirt, his smile genuine as he thanked everyone for coming. Occasionally he would catch Pura's eye and wink, making her heart flutter with love. The celebration felt perfect, exactly as she had dreamed it would be. As the afternoon reached its peak, Nero stood up suddenly, clapping her hands for attention. The music stopped and all eyes turned toward her. She wore a nervous smile, her hands trembling slightly. "Family and friends," Nero began, her voice carrying across the quiet compound. "I have wonderful news to share on this special day." She looked directly at Pura, then toward Ibube near the gate. Pura felt her stomach tighten with an unexplained unease. Something in her sister's tone seemed different, almost triumphant. The guests leaned forward, eager to hear what Nero would say. "I am also expecting a baby," Nero announced, her voice growing stronger. "And the father is someone very special to our family." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Pura's smile faltered as she watched her sister's face. There was something in Nero's expression that made her blood run cold. The silence stretched uncomfortably long as guests exchanged confused glances, unsure whether to congratulate or wait for more information. Nero's next words fell like thunder in the quiet compound. "The father of my child is Ibube," she said, pointing toward Pura's husband. "We have been together for months." The world seemed to stop spinning. Pura felt as if someone had poured ice water through her veins. She watched in horror as Ibube's face went pale, his mouth opening and closing without sound. The guests erupted in shocked whispers and gasps. "Nero, what are you saying?" Adenea demanded, rising from her seat with fury in her eyes. But Nero continued, her voice now filled with defiance. "I am 3 months pregnant with his child. We love each other and I wanted everyone to know the truth today." Pura's hands instinctively moved to protect her belly as tears began streaming down her face. The beautiful decorations now felt like mockery, the celebration turned into a nightmare. Her sister, her own blood, had chosen this moment, her most sacred day, to destroy her world. The compound erupted into chaos as family members began shouting. While chaos consumed the compound around her, Pura sat frozen in her decorated chair. Guests were arguing, some leaving in disgust, others trying to comfort her. Through her tears, she watched Ibube attempting to explain himself to her uncles, his words lost in the commotion. But something strange happened in that moment of devastation. Instead of collapsing completely, Pura felt a cold clarity settle over her mind. She remembered the strange phone calls Ibube had been receiving, the late nights he claimed were work overtime, the way Nero always found excuses to visit when he was home. As she sat there, absorbing the magnitude of the betrayal, Pura began to think. She was a teacher, someone who solved problems every day. She had always been the smart one in the family, the one who planned ahead and thought things through carefully. Her hand moved to her purse beside the chair, feeling the envelope hidden inside. Neither Nero nor Ibube knew about her own secret. Something she had discovered just days ago. Something that would change everything. A small, bitter smile crossed her lips as the plan began forming in her mind. The morning sun felt different as it crept through Pura's bedroom window. The compound, which had been filled with celebration just hours ago, now lay eerily quiet. Empty plates and torn decorations scattered across the ground told the story of yesterday's disaster. Pura sat at her dressing table, carefully applying makeup to hide the evidence of her tears. Her reflection showed a woman transformed, no longer the naive wife who had trusted blindly. Ibube had not returned home last night, probably hiding at his friend's place like a coward. Her phone buzzed with messages from concerned family members and friends. But Pura ignored them all. Today was not about sympathy or comfort. Today was about justice. She reached into her drawer and pulled out the envelope she had kept hidden for 3 days. Inside were photographs, bank statements, and documents that would change everything. Her smile was cold as she reviewed the evidence one final time. The plan she had crafted was about to unfold. A knock at the compound gate interrupted Pura's preparation. She peered through the window and saw Nero standing nervously outside, her hands fidgeting with her dress. The audacity of her sister's presence made Pura's blood boil, but she composed herself quickly. "Sister, please let me explain," Nero pleaded as Pura opened the gate. Her eyes were red from crying, and she looked smaller somehow, less confident than during her triumphant announcement. Pura studied her sister's face with new eyes. How had she missed the deception? The secret smiles, the way Nero always asked about Ibube's schedule, her sudden interest in visiting more often. The signs had been there all along. "Come inside," Pura said quietly, her voice unnaturally calm. "We need to talk." Nero followed hesitantly, sensing something different in her sister's demeanor. She had expected tears and begging, perhaps even violence. But this cold composure was more frightening than any outburst would have been. They sat in the living room where yesterday's gifts still lay unopened. "I never meant for it to happen this way," Nero began, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I was going to tell you privately, but when I saw everyone celebrating your pregnancy, I got jealous. I wanted people to celebrate me too." Pura listened silently, her face showing no emotion. Inside, she marveled at her sister's selfishness. Even now, Nero was making it about herself, about wanting attention and celebration. "How long?" Pura asked, her voice barely above a whisper. 6 months, Nero admitted, unable to meet her sister's eyes. "It started when you were having those difficult early weeks with morning sickness. Ibube was lonely, and I was there to comfort him." The casual way Nero spoke about destroying her marriage made Pura's hands clench into fists. But she remained perfectly still, watching her sister squirm under the weight of her confession. "He loves me, Pura. He told me so. He said he married you because it was expected, but I am his true love." Pura's smile was ice cold as she reached for her envelope. "Is that what he told you?" Pura asked, opening the envelope with deliberate slowness. She pulled out the first photograph and placed it on the coffee table between them. Nero's face went pale as she recognized the image. Ibube with another woman at a restaurant, their hands intertwined across the table. The woman was neither Pura nor Nero, but someone completely different. "Who is she?" Nero whispered, her voice shaking. Pura placed another photograph down. Then another. Each showed Ibube with the same mysterious woman in different locations around Lagos. Hotel entrances, shopping centers, quiet bars. The timestamps showed they were recent, some taken just last week. "Her name is Kelechi," Pura said calmly. "She works at the bank where Ibube has been working overtime, so many evenings. According to these bank statements, he has been spending our savings on her for 8 months." Nero stared at the evidence in horror. Her hands trembled as she picked up one of the photographs, studying the woman's face. She was beautiful, sophisticated, everything Nero had hoped to be. "But he said he loved me," she whispered, her voice breaking completely. Pura leaned back in her chair, watching her sister's world crumble just as hers had crumbled yesterday. But this was only the beginning of her plan. "You destroyed my marriage for a man who was already cheating on both of us," Pura said, her voice filled with cold satisfaction. "But don't worry, sister. I have a solution that will benefit us both." She pulled out her phone and showed Nero a message thread. It was a conversation with Kelechi, the bank worker. The messages revealed everything: Ibube's lies to all 3 women, his promises to each that they were his only true love, his plans to abandon his pregnant wife and start fresh. "I contacted her yesterday after your little performance," Pura explained. She was quite shocked to learn about his pregnant wife and pregnant sister-in-law. In fact, she's been planning to leave her husband for Abube. Nero's face turned green as the full scope of Abube's deception became clear. She had betrayed her own sister for a man who had been playing them all. "What do you want me to do?" Nero asked quietly, finally understanding that she was completely trapped. Pura's smile was triumphant as she revealed the final part of her plan. Pura stood up slowly, her pregnant belly making the movement deliberate and powerful. She walked to the window, looking out at the compound where yesterday's betrayal had unfolded, then turned back to face her broken sister. "Here is what you are going to do, Nero," Pura began, her voice steady and commanding. "Tomorrow evening, Abube will come crawling back here, expecting forgiveness and a warm meal. You will be here waiting with me." Nero wiped her tears, confusion replacing her earlier despair. "I don't understand, sister." Pura pulled out her phone and showed Nero a message she had already typed to Kelechi. "At exactly 7 o'clock, Kelechi will arrive at our compound, believing Abube has finally chosen her and wants to introduce her to his family before they run away together." The brilliance of the trap began to dawn on Nero. Her sister had orchestrated a meeting where all of Abube's lies would collide in one devastating moment. "You want all three of us here when he arrives?" Nero asked, her voice barely audible. Pura nodded, her eyes gleaming with cold intelligence. The teacher in her had designed the perfect lesson. The next evening arrived with heavy clouds gathering over Lagos, as if the sky itself sensed the approaching confrontation. Pura sat calmly in the same chair where she had received yesterday's devastating news, her hands resting protectively on her belly. Nero paced nervously near the gate, her earlier confidence completely shattered. The photographs of Abube with Kelechi lay scattered on the coffee table like evidence in a courtroom. Every few minutes she glanced at her sister, amazed by Pura's composure. At exactly 7 o'clock, a sleek car pulled up to the compound gate. A beautiful woman in an expensive dress stepped out, her confidence radiating as she approached the entrance. This was Kelechi, the bank worker who believed she was about to claim her prize. "Good evening," Kelechi said politely, though her eyes showed confusion at seeing two pregnant women waiting for her. "I am here to see Abube. He said his family wanted to meet me." Pura smiled graciously and gestured for her to sit. "Please make yourself comfortable. He will be here very soon." The three women sat in uncomfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the man who had deceived them all. 20 minutes later, Abube's familiar footsteps echoed in the compound. He had clearly prepared a speech, his shoulders squared with false confidence as he approached the living room. But his steps faltered when he saw not just Pura waiting for him, but all three women sitting together. His face went through a series of expressions, confusion, recognition, and finally, pure terror as he realized his web of lies had been exposed. "Pura, I can explain," he began, his voice shaking as his eyes darted between the three women. "No need," Pura replied calmly. "We have all been talking. Kelechi has been very enlightening about your 8-month relationship and your promises to leave your pregnant wife. Nero has shared details about your 6-month affair and your declarations of true love. I think we all understand the situation perfectly." Kelechi stood up abruptly, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "You told me you were unhappy in your marriage, that you married her by mistake," she said, pointing at Pura. Nero's voice was barely a whisper. "He told me the same thing." Abube's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, unable to form any defense against the truth. "Sit down, Abube," Pura commanded, her voice carrying the authority of a teacher addressing a misbehaving student. Surprisingly, he obeyed, collapsing into the chair across from the three women he had wronged. Kelechi was the first to speak, her banker's mind quickly calculating the extent of his deception. "The money you spent on me, that was family money meant for your baby, wasn't it?" When Abube nodded miserably, she pulled out her purse and threw cash on the table. "I don't want anything that belongs to a child." She walked out without another word, her head held high despite the humiliation. Nero looked at her sister, then at Abube, finally understanding the full scope of what she had destroyed. "I betrayed my own blood for someone who was using me," she said, her voice filled with self-loathing. Pura watched both of them with calculating eyes. This was the moment she had been building toward, not just revenge but a lesson that would change them forever. "Now you both understand," she said quietly. "Betrayal always comes with consequences, but the greatest victim of betrayal is often the betrayer themselves." The room fell silent except for the sound of approaching thunder outside. Pura stood up slowly, her hands cradling her belly as she looked at the two people who had tried to destroy her happiness. But instead of the anger they expected, her face showed something unexpected, pity mixed with wisdom. "Ibube, pack your things and leave this house tonight. You will send money for your child, but you are no longer welcome in this family," she said firmly. "Your lies have cost you everything, your wife, your home, your honor." Ibube nodded, defeated, and shuffled toward the bedroom to collect his belongings. Turning to Nero, Pura's expression softened slightly. "Sister, you are still my blood and you are carrying an innocent child. You will stay with Mama until your baby is born. After that, you must find your own way and learn to live with what you have done." Nero broke down completely, falling to her knees. "Can you ever forgive me?" Pura helped her sister to her feet, her teacher's heart unable to completely abandon family, despite the betrayal. "Forgiveness is not about forgetting, Nero. It is about choosing not to let someone else's wrongs destroy your own soul. I forgive you for my sake, not yours." As thunder rolled overhead and the first drops of rain began to fall, Pura realized that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from revenge, but from choosing who deserves a place in your future. Moral lesson: betrayal may wound deeply, but it cannot destroy those who refuse to let it poison their hearts. True strength lies not in revenge but in wisdom, knowing when to fight, when to forgive, and when to simply walk away. Those who choose deception over truth will ultimately find themselves alone with their lies, while those who choose wisdom over vengeance will find peace even in the storm. Thank you for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos like this.